All right. Today is Thursday, January 12th, 2023. This is our fortnightly design and usability meeting. And we've got a couple of issues on the agenda around user experience, but before we get to them, we're going to go through and do some quick introductions. If everyone wants to share your name or your friend and anything not on the agenda you want to share with us, feel free to go ahead. I'm going to start. My name is Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California. I don't have anything exciting to share, but maybe I'll think of something for the next meeting. Martin, you want to go next?
Martin from United Kingdom. I don't have anything exciting to share. So, go to Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. And tons of exciting things happening up here. Not really. Just overwhelmed with catching up from not feeling well over the holidays. So sort of feeling pretty good today, but just a lot of things to do. Greg.
Hi, Greg. I'm joining from Greece, usually in Australia, but currently in Greece. One exciting thing, the release is coming up. So yeah, that's one thing. So I'm trying to squeeze in some UX improvements and bug fixes in and get some other structural things like PHP, checks, and stuff like that done. Yeah, here to help. I haven't been joining the meetings for months before, but I have started doing that now. And I'll pass it on to Robert.
I'm Robert Lang, it's bug folder on the internet, coming to you from Altadena, California. And not much exciting, except we have a gorgeous clear day here after several days of rain, flash floods, and mudslides. So a nice change. And let's pass it to Sarvashree.
Okay, this is Sarvashree. I'm in Walnut Cove, North Carolina, and I'm just going to be sort of a fly on the wall today and learn about your design ideas and design meeting stuff. So I'll hang out.
That's great. Thank you. We have two items added to the agenda this week. One of them from the forum says views permission override for display not working properly. It sounds like it. Is this for the developer meeting? Maybe I copied to the wrong meeting.
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a user experience, because if you set up a view and you maybe create a block, you create a couple of different pages, and you say, right, I'm going to set this one to be only if they've got this permission. I'm going to be this one for anyone. So view publish, I'm going to be this one for anyone. And you go through that and you think, and you don't go back and check the ones that you've previously done. And suddenly you find the one that you'd set up for managing content is suddenly is set up for view published content.
Yeah, I think
because
this.
It's not working as.
I'm going to stop you. I think this might be a security issue. So let me just go.
It has been on the Drupal issue queue for years.
Oh, okay, it has, and they haven't freaked out about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew. Like, oh, we're going to talk about this in the meeting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see. You've got the other links listed there too. Okay. Carry on then.
Yeah. So there are a couple of workarounds. If you first of all set the you've got two bits of the permission. You've got whether it's what role it is or what permission it is, and then whether it's non role or permission. And if you adjust that first, so set it to none and then set it back to permission, then it holds. But if it and then there's another workaround, which is if you set the master to be none, then each one will then work.
Yeah. So that definitely sounds like the feature is there, but the user interface for it is so bad that it makes people not be able to figure out how to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's not that the access controls don't work, which is
No.
what I thought was happening. It's that I can't use them because it makes no sense, which is definitely in
Yeah.
the squarely in the user experience category there. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it looks like there's two possible solutions here.
Yeah. I haven't tried porting any. I just found it and thought I'll just add this onto our queue.
Yeah. These patches are 5 years old, so I expect they might not apply, but
Yeah.
you never know. Views hasn't changed that much since Backshot put in a core, so maybe it's worth a shot.
Yeah. I don't know. So, but
Okay, yeah,
Anyway.
thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think that's definitely something we should look at. And then let's see, the other issue on here is long form of filter tips.
Yeah, so quick summary. Text filters have to define filter tips, and they have to define two versions, a short and a long version. And the short version is what you see pretty much anywhere. And in fact, it looks like the long version only shows up on the path /filter/tips. And that path isn't inlinked from anywhere in core, but it used to be. There is a function, theme filter info, that says for more information, go to this page. That goes to that page. And that theme function is still there, and it used to appear at the end of all filter descriptions in the user interface. But it was taken out in a commit a while back.
I think it was a
And-
node form cleanup. But I think we've cleaned up, I think we fixed this problem differently since then. So it might be worth revisiting adding it back.
So yeah, I guess the last question in the queue was for those who are around, and it was a commit from Quick Sketch. What was the rationale for removing it? Because if it really should be removed, then maybe the theme function should be deprecated and various other deprecation warnings. But if there's a use case for it, we should find a way to make it so people can get to it.
Yeah, I vaguely remember when we changed that. It was around the time where we made the field set underneath the WYSIWYG collapsible, and
I think it was
we did
before
all the
that. I think
Was
so. A part of this confusion came from Drupal 7 usability studies, where people were using the node form and they would start typing content in the body field. And then they would be like, oh, I wonder how these filter tips work. Oh, look, there's help. And they'd click the link and it would take them off the page and they'd lose all their changes because that was a link to a different page. And yeah, it didn't come up in a modal or anything. And it created this really bad experience where as soon as people did that, they'd be like, I just lost everything I put in the body field or whatever it was.
Yeah, which is why I try to put target equals blank to my links when it's on forms that people actually do things. And DocWilmot suggested also that we should try. It seems more slicker if these can be in pop-up dialogues. So
yeah. So I think our immediate solution was like, just get that off the page. It's causing a lot of pain and trouble. I'm not sure there's really anything of much value in there because a lot of the long filter tips were the same as the short filter tips for what was in core anyway. And so why are we hurting people with this link? But since then, we have also added a field set around the text selection so that it's not immediately visible on the page. So now people would have to open that. If the link was in there, they would be able to get it that way. I do think we could also, if we wanted to put it back in there, we should also make sure that that page either comes up in a modal or opens in a new window. I prefer modal because new windows can be really hard for accessibility reasons, that you have to notify people it's going to open in a new window, and trying to get people back, even on like mobile devices, can be hard to get back there. But yeah, if we could do a modal, that would be great. I don't know Robert, if you've looked at the text that's in the long form version versus the short form version, I feel like in contrib modules, this is where it's likely to be a lot more useful than it is in core, because most of the filter tips in core are not that complicated and can be explained concisely. But some of the ones in contrib, like embed and stuff, get really complicated, and it might be valuable to have more explanation there. So I don't know if you've seen them, what your general thoughts are on the filter tips themselves.
I guess I don't have strong feelings. I encountered it because of the contrib module token filter that I was updating and updating that part. And I thought, where does this show up?
How do I test it?
And at least in token filter, it was the long version was actually longer. It included the whole token filter tree and things like that. But I haven't checked the difference in too many other modules.
I feel like I don't really like the idea of having two different versions of this text. I feel like if the token tree is in there, that's something you need to have on the form, really, right? Because if you go to another page, it wouldn't have worked there anyway, because you'd get the token tree and you'd click on the thing and then it wouldn't have gone into the form element. So maybe a modal might work for that. But if we could put
for token filter, the short version has the embeddable version of the token tree. And then the long form has like the full, a link to the full page or something.
Okay, interesting. So just throwing this out there, how would people feel if we encouraged the long form of the tips to be added to currently where the short form is displayed? Because the reason that we had a short form and a long form is because we didn't want all of that stuff to clutter up the node page. But now that we have a collapsible field set, I feel like we could put the longer explanation in there, because it's not going to be overwhelming on the node form initially. And we could give people, you need help with text formats, it's all right here. We don't make you open it up, read something, and then go somewhere else for more. And I like the idea of removing the extra theme function and the extra, just like if we can get all of the information in the first place and remove some additional clutter, I like that solution more. But I want to see how other people feel about it. Greg is nodding. Anyone else?
Yeah, it's like, I'm not opposed to it. I just feel, because some of them are really lengthy, you'd be opening up the field set and it would not just the page that you're seeing, but it will go like below the fold as well. If we could load and unload via Ajax or the pop-up seems like a good idea. I don't know.
I have another idea. What if inside filtered tips we supported like details? So you could have like the short title, and so it would give you the titles of all of the tips, and then you click on the title and then it would show each one individually. So you don't need to see all of the information all at once. You would just see like path filtering, whatever, and it would say more info, or I don't know, whatever we wanted to say, but then it would be collapsed. So you'd have the field set be collapsed, but then when you open up, you have a list of things you want to see. And then if you want to understand token filters, you can click only on token filters, and then a details element in there would expand. Would that make you feel better about having it on the same page?
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like we might still need to support 2 strings of text. I don't know how this is going to work in reality, but probably the API should allow the filter tip string that currently shows on the like filters page, and then the filter tip string that shows up on the normal page. And I don't know what we should use for like the label of the details field, if we should just use the name of the filter, or if we should use one of those shorter versions. But we could maybe try it with a couple of options and see
Robert's going to say that I should work on that issue with a more or less thing with the details.
Yeah.
The toggle. Sounds great.
Actually, that's another use case for that.
There's a lot of use cases for that.
Yeah.
Okay. I just couldn't, there was so many things to review and work on for this release that, I didn't get to it, but I promise I'll do it.
So in general, I think let's get rid of the page. Let's put the information on the page where people need to find it, and find some way to make it less overwhelming. Whether it's in a collapsed field set or a collapsed field set and a details, I think those are both good solutions.
I'm just making notes and I'll type things into the issue.
Great. Any other user experience issues? Greg, I know you have a million, but
Yeah, the one about the layout templates.
oh
and
yeah,
calling them.
yes. I hope we get that in. Let's see, where is
Yes,
it?
me too. Like it's a long-term pet peeve of mine. And I'm surprised how I thought that I was making it clear. And see how you said, oh, I didn't think about the folder, the names of the folding. I thought that I was bringing them up each time, but yeah, maybe I wasn't.
I might have just not remembered it. The issue is 3607 for those of you who want to follow along.
There's another one that has been tagged that Kiam Luno has been Kiam Laluno has been working on 5917, which is basically the error message returned by file validate is image. I don't have strong feelings about it. The PR seems to be sorting. It's just I would like more feedback, and I would like to get to do some more testing to make sure that we cover all cases.
Sorry, 5917.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, interesting. That's hard coded in there.
Yeah. So I think we have a function that spits out all the supported extensions. Yeah. So at the very least, we should be doing that. But there's the image get info function returns two possible things. And if it errors, so I think that we should be covering those cases separately. It now spits a generic, the way that Kiam Laluno has provided in the PR, it just spits up a generic image that cannot be recognized or something. So I still think that if we can get a valid extension and it's not within the allowed ones, we still should say that, it's not within the allowed extensions. It has value, but we need to be providing, and we shouldn't be hard coding it. We should be providing providing that via the function that gives us the extensions. Yeah, and I've linked some Stack Exchange articles where people suggest a combination of native PHP functions to verify that there's the thing that has been uploaded is an image. I'm not sure why we're using the toolkit, the image toolkit each time, but there must be a reason. So there's some research to be done.
Because we're using the image toolkit because for image fields, those images could be rendered with an image style. And if the image toolkit does not support the image type, it will not work. So rather than checking with PHP to be like, is it a valid image type, say, can Backdrop actually handle this image type? And then if it can't, then we don't let it to be allowed in the first place. So you might be using like ImageMagick without a SVG extension or something like that. And if you uploaded SVG, then all of your image styles would be broken if we tried to do that.
Yeah, in the issues that I was reading, because initially I thought, no, that's not a security concern, but it might be, because you might have forms that allow uploading images, and then people might try to, trick you to something else. Get image size, I think only. Anyway, there was a mention that was saying that it checks, you can fake an image file by putting a specific extension and then like in a TXT file, and then adding just the header of an image, and then trick PHP to thinking that that's it. anyway, it might need a little bit more resets, but it could be wrong, and things might be simpler than what I think them to be. But yeah,
Yeah.
either
Anyway.
way, I think that it might be worth adding some inline comments to say why we do the things that the way that we do them, because it got me into all this resets thing. So
Yeah. You mean like an inline code comment that's like, check the image toolkit for image styles support or something like that? Yeah.
well, exactly
Okay.
what you just said. If the image toolkit doesn't support rendering the thumbnail, then we can't handle it. So that's why we're doing that way here.
Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, this is a good bug. We should not be hard coding the list of allowed image types. And it looks like we've got a potential solution. I haven't looked at the pull request, but it looks fairly straightforward.
Yeah, and then I have opened a couple of other tabs, unless someone else wants to bring anything else up. No, I'll go ahead. So there's an old issue, one favorite since 2015, 1360, which is basically just to add a link to the layouts admin page. And Martin has provided some feedback that I need to work on. Oh, it was Olaf, sorry. But basically it should be very simple.
Sorry, what number was it? 1360?
1360, yeah. I have a screenshot on the second comment that shows what the UI looks like in Drupal. And in Drupal, they have secondary tabs which people can click quickly, but we don't. We basically have that page there. So basically, I need some feedback with regards to the wording. More, less, okay.
Yeah,
and then I need to fix the things that Olaf mentioned.
I don't know about arbitrary, but I think otherwise the text looks really good.
Yeah, and Olaf mentioned that it's not just text because it's a WYSIWYG, it's images, so we should be saying content instead of text. It's not just.
Or we could just say custom blocks can be placed in layout regions. We don't even have to say what they are in this case.
Well,
or we could just delete the whole first sentence. Blocks created here become available.
Yeah, but then Olaf brings up a valid point that
I should read the comments.
Those blocks cannot be created only there. You can directly, which is a good segue to the next issue that we'll bring up. You can directly create these blocks from the block management interface, add block and then custom block. So it gives you the option to say reusable and then it gets placed here. So anyway, thoughts about that. And then the segue is 5922. I don't have any concise solution or whatever. It's just possible things that we can do better. For example, we have a thing that is called custom blocks, but for people coming from Drupal, custom blocks mean a different thing. Like they have block types, which have different fields, whereas for us, it's just a simple thing, right? And we have this distinction, as I said, like when you go into the block management interface and click on add block, you have a type of block which says custom block, and then that is not what ends up being here unless you click the make this thing reusable, in which case it becomes a reusable custom block. So basically we have two types of things, reusable and non-reusable ones, and the non-reusable are not being shown. Maybe we should be showing them, and along with some where they are, where in which layouts they're being used or something like that, but maybe not.
So they aren't, there isn't, this is confusing.
It is.
They're a custom block. If it's not reusable, only exists in that one layout. Like it's not actually a block, it's just a set of configuration in a region in a layout. So the configuration is stored there. So I think that the custom
what you
block.
Just said, though, and sorry to interrupt, what he just said though is a developer concept.
Yes.
People don't know that.
Right. That's why I was starting to explain it. And I'm like, this is going to be confusing because I was going to say technically where the configuration is. But I think when you're using a custom block field, like when you add one to a form, it's the same form regardless of where that configuration is saved. So that thing is the same. I think it might make more sense if just on the custom block lists, we just called it reusable custom blocks.
This is
and
one
that
of the
would,
suggestions.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
You see, this is why I should
Yeah,
read
one
the
of the-
issue before I say anything.
Yeah. So I say that there's two flavors: the reusable and non-reusable. One of the suggestions is that I don't have a concrete set of suggestions. It's just that I noticed a few inconsistencies, right? So one thing would be to rename that thing, instead of structure custom blocks, to structure reusable blocks or something like that. Then people will know that it's different from the, I don't know, plain custom blocks, non-reusable ones. Or if we listed both of them in that page, they would know that these are the reusable ones that you can place in blocks, and they have a place action or whatever.
But there's nothing to list for the other ones because there aren't any. It's only layouts.
Yeah.
So I think that might be a good, like, maybe future thing to consider. But in terms of easy wins, changing the name of that page is going to be easy. Maybe not the menu link. I don't know. That's how wide they get worries me a little bit. But I think even if you clicked on a link that said custom blocks and then you got to a page that said reusable custom blocks, I think that would still be a huge improvement over what we have now. What else?
Another thought which I don't know if it's good or not, is that we sort of like we keep the existing, for people that have gotten used to clicking on add block, then custom block, and then clicking the make this thing reusable, we'll keep that checkbox there. But we explicitly have a custom block and a reusable custom block form, which is basically duplicating these two forms so that people distinguish the two. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, because I think people might want to create a custom block and then later go back and make it reusable. So it's got to be the same form to be able to make that toggle. I mean, you could have two blocks with the same form in them.
Anyway,
or maybe the block class even works in such a way that you can define an info file and point it at the other block. I don't know, like that, but that, yeah, it seems like less of a huge win than just like labeling things appropriately. But yeah, it's definitely an option. I don't know. I'm very conflicted because part of me is like, I don't like having duplicate things in code for no reason. But then the other reason is like, I want everything someone tries to get them the right answer. So those things are like directly counter to each other.
It needs to not be confusing for the developer that is looking at the code as well and say, hey, well, we do have like duplication of code here, but the main drive for this issue was the UX. Anyway, as I said, I don't have these are suggestions or ideas there, and maybe we can sort of like start a discussion and see what this can be a meta. It's just that I wanted to point out the inconsistencies or points of confusion.
Yeah.
So that's a good one there for future. Another good one for the future that I've marked for Backdrop 2.x is 5923. And it's with regards to the usage of plural versus singular in things that are under structure. And then we have some pre-existing things for some of them to rethink, but the low-hanging fruit there would be renaming slash menu to slash menus
blocks,
and
menus,
block to blocks.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it doesn't have to be a single thing that we get everything in one go, but baby steps to provide some consistency.
Yeah, I think these are easy changes because of the backdrop go to deprecated or whatever it was. Yeah, the redirect there could be a quick win. This doesn't have to be 2.x. That was my out there.
Yeah, I'll remove that then. I just didn't want to scare people and say, oh, these are huge changes or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the last issue that I want to bring up is 5928, which is something that Doc Wilmot raised a few hours ago about revamping the 7 theme, the admin theme.
Yes. What number is that one? Sorry.
5928.
928. Man, people have been busy. This is fantastic. These are all newish issues. Okay,
Yeah.
to 5928, I'm gonna drop that in the agenda also. Oh, I didn't get 5923 in there. That's okay. So yeah,
last year before I vanished from the community for many months, I brought up, because I was keeping touch with the UX channel in Drupal Slack and following the evolution of Claro as an admin theme. I see that people are swarming around Gene, which is sort of like a sub-theme of Claro. And the reason why I'm mentioning these two is not because they look good or they're trendy or what, but there's a lot of underlying work that has gone with regards of accessibility and usability that we could mimic. And maybe some people in the community like the idea of us having something that Drupal people will feel familiar. Others might say, oh, we are different things, so we should sort of like differentiate rather than mimic. So yeah, that's a point of discussion as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it's worth looking at admin interfaces in Gin and being like, what is an obvious win? Like so much better than it was before, and can we do that in Backdrop too? I think one thing I want to point out about admin themes in particular is that if we need to make CSS changes like increasing contrast, whatever, we can do that at any time. But we have to change the markup. That has to wait until Backdrop 2, because not only does it potentially, if someone had an admin theme, their admin theme wouldn't support that anymore, but also there's a lot of JavaScript in the administration UI that depends on the markup being in the exact format it's in now. And that's the number one problem I have with Claro and any of the themes in Drupal, is that it breaks a whole bunch of contrib stuff that is dependent, particularly like paragraphs, which is really important, like layout paragraphs and other tools that people use. And so if we're going to do anything like that, even if it doesn't break anything in core, I still think it should wait until 2 so that contrib has a chance to catch up with it.
I completely agree. Having said that, if it is a usability bug, then the markup should be changed. If the markup is what is causing the usability issues, then we have it, because it's a bug, right? It needs to be fixed, or still we don't touch it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There are also a lot of cases where like the markup, like it's a page that doesn't have any JavaScript on it. But if it's something like the node form changing the way all the fields are arranged, like what Claro does is very heavy-handed in terms of reorganizing things. And in some ways it's good because it makes like a more accessible markup in the end, but it's also really bad in that like you can't use it anymore. So it's like, we just have to do it carefully. And I think for everything that is a major bug that needs to be cleaned up, we just need to look at it and be like, okay, we're changing markup. This could have ramifications. Is there any JavaScript on this page? Are there any admin themes that like override this? And do just a little more research on those.
Yeah, just as a general comment then, at Minimal seemed to be the sort of like popular go-to theme for D7, and then it was ported to D8 and so on. But now Claro and Gene seem, to be attracting a lot of people, and for good reasons as well. It's not just looking good; it works well.
Yeah. It would be really interesting to have some like side-by-side comparison screenshots of like, this is like the dashboard and this is, I don't know if there's something comparable, but just something that we could be like, this is a good example of something we really like, and this is what it looks like in Backdrop. And then we could just immediately see the things that are different and could be improved. And I definitely think there's some interfaces in Backdrop that I still prefer over the stuff that appears in Drupal 8 admin themes, but there are definitely a lot of areas that we know could need help. There's a whole ton of issues in the queue that are contrast issues that come up with 7 a lot because of all those grays.
There's some usability things that have been fixed, like tab index and the halo on focus that is more prominent. These are things that improve usability and accessibility. So we should definitely, consider those.
Yeah.
And we might need to put into bed.
All right. 5928.
And I have
Anything
run out of issues, I think. Not completely, but from a first pass, I don't think anything.
What?
No, I didn't. I mean, I'll let someone else speak as well. Oh, yes, another one. Just last one. 5918.
default user management view.
Yeah, I think I should remove that because I made an attempt and it just won't work because the things that are shown there are role names, labels, and what. So basically, the problem that I'm trying to address in an alternative way is the one that we're trying to fix with what's the issue number? Yeah, I think that's the one that I'm linking, the 3814, where in Drupal they have people permissions roles like as primary tabs at the top, and people can toggle between them, whereas as they're buried in some second level sub menus. And if there were links to the configuration page, maybe it would be easier. I would still like to
I don't think they should appear on the user edit form though, because the kinds of people who are changing roles aren't usually the same people who are setting permissions.
No, it's controlled. Yeah, exactly. It's controlled by permission. So if you don't have permission to manage permissions, these things won't show for you. So if you are, and I mentioned that in one of the comments.
Yeah, but in reality, rather than in core, like there are a lot of administrators who like create user roles and create users and give them roles, and those people should not be allowed to touch the permissions of the website. And so I think if we're going to add a tool like this in somewhere, we should make sure that it that's the right audience. Like I think on the user edit form is not the audience for where you go to permissions. Like if you were someone who could manage permissions, you'd probably be doing from the user account form, which I think makes sense. But you probably wouldn't be doing from the edit form.
Exactly, but the user. So this was a journey, and this is one of the use cases where I either myself or one of my colleagues work in tickets for GovCMS, which this like. Managing users and setting permissions for SaaS customers is one of the things that we do because we don't allow permission management. And there was a lot of time saved because of the Drupal thing that they have the links up there, so you can easily switch. Like you try to assign a role, then you see that it's too permissive. You need to either revoke permissions from that one, or you decide that you need another role. And then you can easily jump between the pages with permissions, roles, user management. Whereas in Backdrop, we don't have that because of the structure that we have decided.
I think they're the same. So yeah, your main concern is the tabs are missing, and so you can't get from the roles page to the permissions page and back and forth real fast.
From the user management, you can get from roles to permissions, I think, because they're all under configuration and accounts.
I still don't think we have tabs there though.
Do we? We don't?
I don't think we do. I think I looked at this recently and was like, where are the tabs?
Yeah,
it could have just been my site.
No, you're right. We don't have tabs there. Yeah, you're right.
But also you were thinking from, okay, so this is another thought too, like, we moved permissions underneath configuration in Backdrop 1 because we thought it's configuration. It would make more sense there. It's one of those things that since we moved that, I'm like, I don't know if that was the right move. Like, does it make more, like, I don't know. It could be been fine where it was before. And so, again, it's one of those things where I would be perfectly happy to revisit that decision too. If we feel like all of the stuff belongs in the user account section, that's fine. But again, it's like, who are the main people who are in there? If the people who are managing your user accounts are also managing your permissions, it makes sense to have them all together. But if those two distinct roles, like there's an admin role and a developer role, and they do different things, then maybe having them in different places makes sense. I don't know. It might be one of those things where every site is different and it's hard to make a generalization.
Again, the main drive, I think, for moving them under configuration, as you said, was a developer centric thing. Like, it's configuration, so it belongs there. But from a workflow perspective, a lot of people have been complaining, including us, the people that have decided to do the change. So maybe, as you say, we should revisit. If we want to revisit, then I have linked to that issue. The issue is. It's actually 4643. That's the one. I have two issues there.
4643. Okay, this is a more general one. So 4643 is like re-examine the entire menu structure.
No, just user account management. So if you scroll to the very bottom, because the initial report was in 2020, I've posted a screenshot that explains, or maybe we should split that to a separate. So as you can see in Drupal, it's very convenient because they have list permissions, roles, and the role settings in the same sort of like primary navigation thing. So you can switch between them.
So yeah, this issue is actually a duplicate of 1149.
1149.
But yeah, that was I don't, it might be worth yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it just I was looking at where we came from.
Yeah, 1149 is closed. Yeah. So basically what Alan has started describing there back in September 2020 was the problem, that you have two same things from a workflow perspective being separate parts of the menu. And one of them actually is like two levels deep. So you need to sort of like dig each time that you want to move between those things.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, and I have another linked issue there, which is specifically about making local tasks. So it's 3814.
Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, different options there. What's the status of that one? Yeah, it needs feedback.
Interesting. Huh.
And maybe this could be a combination of primary and secondary tabs. For example, I think that account emails and account settings can be grouped together, so that we don't have so many tabs and permissions and roles.
Oh, you mean like making more sub pages?
Yeah. So the screenshots. Yeah, I haven't visited that one in quite some time, since 2019. But I have some screenshots there that show primary tabs and then secondary tabs. Right? Maybe it needs to be a combination of both.
Yeah, I think we tried to remove all of the secondary tabs in Backdrop because that was sort of a UX nightmare. I mean, tabs in general. It's just a very strange pattern, but it's fine. It's what we have. Yeah, this also makes me think like maybe roles and permissions don't belong here. Like they don't seem to fit with other settings. You see them all like that next to each other. You're like, what are those doing here?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we could solve that in a couple of ways. We could either add another item there that's like access or something rather than under user accounts, or we could move roles and permissions under manage user accounts menu, or like where they were before. Or we could make each one of these so we could have like an account settings one that includes a subsection for account emails and a permission section that includes
so it seems that we have multiple issues that they're not necessarily duplicates of each other. It's just different ideas to tackle the same problem. And I'm happy to close 5918, which I already tagged before as contrib candidate and maybe not a good fit for core. It was just an attempt because we kind of sort of like hit a dead end with the other issues, or there's either not agreement or technical not limitations, what you would call obstacles. But yeah, I'm happy to close the other issue off.
I think 5918, so just for those who are following on, that's the one that adds links from one page to another. I think that's still valuable to have, like, especially on the top of the permissions page, something that would be, or on top of the user page, just a message that would be like, roles and permissions are configured here. Just if they're in a different part of the menu where they're not immediate tabs, having that link would be good. That link might still be good even with the tab. So I think that part's good. I think trying to mix it in with the role selection is where it starts to make me nervous.
Okay. So similar approach to what we did with the text for the blocks. The custom blocks that links to the layouts. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, maybe I'll close this one and file it because that's a different direction.
It's in the issue title.
Yeah, okay.
User management. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's fine. If you want to start another issue, it's totally fine with me. But yeah, anyway, that was one of the things that I immediately thought. I just saw your blocks one and was like, oh yeah. And then this is like, I also want links, and I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And then I saw the roles and I was like, wait a minute, this is different. Yeah, but I might have been inferring that they were the same just because you just showed me the other issue. But yeah, I still think that makes sense.
This is one of the things that, this goes back to the meeting that we were having earlier, and for people that are developers or site admins and they come from Drupal to Backdrop, that they kind of feel familiar, they expect to find those links. And this is why we get most of the complaints. So the thing that you said that we might want to revisit, we might.
Yeah. But I still think that we might revisit. I don't know when we'd revisit that. I suppose it would be fine to revisit it before too. But anyway, this is something that could get in like this release, right? Like just the extra help text. So in terms of low hanging fruit, that might be a much faster solution. But yeah,
I like segue for the next meeting if we're sprinting before the final release, just for the bug fixes.
Just speaking about bug fixes, since we're nearing the end of time, I would encourage everybody to go try the preview release of Backdrop 124, put it on your actual websites, and make sure everything we've added that's new is sensible in terms of its strings of text and that sort of thing.
I was checking telemetry tabs and it reports about 5 sites having installed the preview.
Oh, that's good. Not great, but good. Anything else before the next meeting?
I've just had a little look at the patches from the Drupal thing, and the one that's from comment 73. There's quite a lot in the patch, but actually there's only one line which is needed to fix it, and it works in Backdrop. The other bits is lots of extra tests and a notice message. But I was wondering whether we need to replicate everything that they've got in their patch, or whether we should just fix it. And
I think we should include the one-line fix and the test for the fix, which I think should just work on Backdrop if we just drop it into the right file.
Okay.
To change Drupal to Backdrop, but I think that should work. And then as far as the update message, so what that says is when you run update.php, it'll print a message on your screen that says, previously, when changing access settings on a view display, it could unexpectedly change the setting on other non-overridden displays of that view. This issue has now been fixed. However, it is recommended that for all your views, you check that the settings under page settings access are correct. I'm not sure we need to say, this system previously had a bug and we have fixed it. But I do like the part that says we recommend that you check all of the settings under page settings access for your views. I think that could be helpful for people. But I don't think it's necessary to include that. I just think it could be helpful. So if other people feel strongly that we shouldn't be including that. We basically said things that were broken before are likely to be less broken now, but that might mean that something is different. which is fair, I guess. We could also, if we wanted to be more proactive about that, in the update hook, check all of the views and change the settings for anything that don't currently reflect the new setting. So if you previously had something that had the wrong setting, we would just go and set the wrong setting rather than having it be different after the update. So we basically write an upgrade path that leaves your site exactly how it was, rather than saying your site might not be exactly how it was, which I think is a more thorough solution, and it might be what core committers ask for anyway, is to like not change existing sites. But that's obviously a little more work than just telling people to do it themselves. But I think that because we know exactly where the setting is, that would be a pretty easy thing to check, just the config files, like load all the config files to start with views, check that property for each of them and set it if it's default to what it should be instead. So maybe not as hard in Backdrop as it was in Drupal to do that. But yeah, I like this patch. I love access options true is a great one-line fix there. So I also think like the use case here for people who have had different access options on each of their views and run into the problem and not fixed it is probably pretty low. So I think in terms of the people whose sites we would be accidentally changing it, it's almost zero. Because I think anyone who's run into this and wanted different permissions on their views probably ran into the problem, either discovered the workaround or just created 2 views to get around the workaround, and they probably don't leave anything in that state where it's changing something it shouldn't be changing.
Okay, I'll make a note that the one-liner works, but I'll maybe leave it for someone else to write update hooks and all that, because that sounds quite complex. So.
Okay, seems fair. All right. Well, Tim, I don't know if you're still around, but I think it's about time to stop the video. Oh, good, you're back. I was like, if Tim's away, how do we stop?
I just quit the meeting, I guess. Everybody bye. Wave goodbye to the camera.
Thanks, everyone.